Hi there, and welcome back. It's so good to have you here. Today we are looking at the concluding part of Q3 episode 5 titled Miracles Around the Lake Part 2, and it's focused on the stories in Mark chapter 6. Let's get into the stories. Story number 1: When Familiarity Breeds Contempt, as we'll find in Mark chapter 6 from verse 1 to 6. Let's get right in. So while Jesus was in his hometown in Nazareth, his people acknowledged the exceptional wisdom in his teachings, and they validated the authenticity of the miracles he performed. But they just could not reconcile his doings with the person of his caliber, meaning a mere carpenter, Mary's son, whose siblings they knew. In other words, they rejected the anointing, in our case, the word, because of the package, the vessel it came in. Sounds familiar? For them, that was reason enough to reject Jesus. And like the Gadarenites, they lost the privileges of his presence. Many miracles that could have been performed in his hometown, but they lost the chance by this decision not to let Jesus in. Question is, what is your excuse today? While you're still thinking, let's get into the next story. Story number 2: The Ministry of Teaching and Healing, as we find in Mark chapter 6 from verse 7 to 12. Please do well to read, and let's analyze together. In general, you will notice that Jesus' ministry was a blend of the Word and manifestations of the power of God, giving credence to the words he spoke. And when he sent out his disciples to witness, verse 7 particularly says that he first empowered them before sending them out. Now, verse 13 confirms the repeated same protocol of teaching and healing. Point is, Jesus' ministry was hardly the word alone. The word almost always seemed to be accompanied by a physical deliverance of the people. We see the same principle repeat itself in the ministry of the other apostles. So find in Mark 16, Acts 14, and Hebrews 2. The list is endless. Please follow me. Think about this for a minute. If greater things than these we have been empowered to do, as we find in John 14, verse 12, and Jesus promised, I will be with you till the end of age, as we find in Matthew 28, verse 20. Question is, why then are these combinations of teaching and healing very scanty in our experiences today? It's not like we are preaching a different message. All the variables of the questions are the same. Why are we not seeing same results or getting same results today? We sparingly share the word, and when we do, the other half sparingly ever happens. We meet people in bondage physically and spiritually, and almost always, in all cases, leave them the same. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Same God, same powers at our disposal, same word, yet different results today. We are supposed to be the carriers of his presence. Question is, why? What are we missing? I know a typical response to this line of questions will be to get defensive and make excuses. But what if, just what if instead, we try something different this time? Like an honest self-appraisal? This cannot be all there is to give. Jesus did more, and so did his disciples. There is no reason why we shouldn't. Something is not right. So, what patterns and protocols in the ministry of Jesus can we learn to recreate his results in losing the bonds of wickedness and letting the oppressed go free today, even as we share the word? please kindly share your insights in the comment section. Please note, this is not to say that this experience is totally absent in the Church of God today. Hopefully, you can say that of your local church. It's a call to personalize our walk with God. Story number 3. A prophet loses his head on a platter in a birthday party, which we find in Mark chapter 6 from verse 13 to 29. Could you please kindly read this part up and share your insights in the comment section? I'll be waiting to read. Story number 4. Jesus feeds 5,000 plus with 5 loaves and 2 fishes, as we find in Mark chapter 6 from verse 30 to 44. Let's get into it. So, after the field experience practical session, the disciples came back to Jesus to debrief. Jesus decides to take them to a quiet place to rest and eat. But before they could get there, over 5,000 people were already waiting for them. So, Jesus began to teach them till it was late in the evening. And the logistics department of the ministry advised Jesus to send the crowd to the neighboring villages where they could get food and maybe somewhere to sleep. But Jesus insisted, "You give them something to eat." Story short, he asked for what they had, and with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, he fed 5,000 plus and more. What to remember from this story? In the face of challenges, it's very normal for humans to think logically in an attempt to proffer solutions. In fact, it will be weird not to. And that's exactly what the disciples did here. Send them to the town nearby to get food and lodging. I mean, that made perfect sense, right? Now, while that is great, the problem is in being exclusively logical. This confines us within the limits of logic, and that in itself limits our range of what is possible. The God factor, however, extends this limit beyond the boundaries of logic, where everything is possible with God. For instance, within the confines of logic, the available resource at the time, 5 loaves and 2 fishes, could only feed a few people if they eat like me. I mean, I'm not saying I eat a lot. But with God, the boundaries of limitations were removed, and the meager resource met the need for the time, feeding 5,000 plus. This is yet another principle in the economy of God, still relevant today, and it applies to all things. Make God a part of your every equation and let Him be God. Remember that. Hey BBS, can you please help us with the rest of the stories?
Yeah, sure. How fast should I go?
Please, not too fast.
Okay, no problem. I'll try. Jesus walks on water. The story comes from Mark 6, verse 45 to 52. After everyone was well fed, against their preference to follow him on a revolution, Jesus sends his disciples ahead of him across the lake, while he stayed behind to send the crowd home. Now remember, Jesus was already tired before coming to this remote place to rest, but instead of resting, he ministered to people all day. Not very many event centers can cater to 5,000 plus guests. Can you imagine the amount of work required to feed this mammoth crowd? Well, the point is, he was thoroughly exhausted at this point, and the natural thing to do would be to rest. But what did Jesus do instead? Well, verse 46 of Mark 6 says, he went up the mountain to pray. For Jesus, this was not an option. It was a constant in his equation. Tired or not, there must be something about spending quality time in prayer alone with God. that sustained his experience. Think about it. If the strength of any relationship is a function of the quality of the communication, not monologue, here is a question. What is your study and prayer life like today? Chances are we most likely, to some extent, participate in these spiritual exercises. The real questions are, where in our priority list do they fall? As a matter of convenience or necessity? Are we beginning to imperceptibly allow our blessings, be it our careers, family, or businesses, to become excuses from spending time with the same God who so graciously blessed us? And for those who participate, have these spiritual exercises degenerated to mere empty rituals and routines? Well, wherever you may fall, the point is, herein lies yet another protocol to recreating Jesus' experience and results today. We can either adopt these protocols, do better, and experience more, or we can stop at admiring these truths, still embracing the age-long excuse of, I'm too busy, and remain nominal Christians, ones in words only but no experience. Well, as always, the choice is yours. If you have ever desired a more than surface, nominal relationship with God, here are a few principles to remember. We are conduits of heaven's extension of the love of God to people, but we need to stay connected in order to be used. Preceding the experience and results of Jesus and his disciples were intentional time spent in God's presence. In one word, relationship, fellowship with God. Kindly read the rest of the story between verses 53 to 56 and share your thoughts in the comment section below. That's it from me. I hope I wasn't too fast. Back to you, big brother.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, BBS. You did great. Next week, it's Inside Out. Please do well to click the notification bell to stay informed when we publish. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining in. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It's your Sabasco Doodle, doodling out. I'll see you next Sabbath.